All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Racha HaKodash. Double honors unto the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well, and salutations to you, Akim, pushing the word of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, in spirit and in truth, coming at you with another lesson. I'm the brother Hassad with Great Millstone Northwest. As brothers know, something that's in the news, not necessarily uh, promoted heavily in Western media. All right, but when you use alternative media sources, you see that there's Russian warships or nuclear submarines, nuclear powered submarines, if I'm not mistaken. In Cuba, and if you're in your right mind, that should generate some type of what's the word I'm looking for? Some type of alertness. Okay. Now the average Babylonian, the average American is completely oblivious to these things, or even if they know about it, they don't understand how it's going to affect them, eventually. So as you see here, it says Putin warns West of risk of nuclear war, says Moscow can strike Western targets. Okay. Which for the hopeful elect, that's good news. Okay, that's good news. We look forward to Putin doing that because we have faith that we will be delivered from that destruction, all right, nuclear destruction. And, the prophets have been warning about nuclear destruction in America being destroyed for a long time. Okay, our apostles and elders before us and their elders before them. And now it's actually coming to pass. It's actually ramping up and happening. Okay, so you can't neglect that prophecy is real. It's true, exact. All right. Moscow, February 29th. It says President Vladimir Putin. Let me see something real quick. All right, so this is from February 29th, 2024. All right, so this is a couple months old. However, it still serves the purpose. Okay, it says President Vladimir Putin told Western countries on Thursday they risk provoking a nuclear war if they sent troops to fight in Ukraine, warning that Moscow had the weapons to strike targets in the West. The war in Ukraine has triggered the worst crisis in Moscow's relations with the West since 1962. Since the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis, Putin has previously spoken of the dangers of a direct confrontation between NATO and Russia, but his nuclear warning on Thursday was one of the most explicit. Addressing lawmakers and other members of the country's elite, Putin, 71, repeated his accusation that the West was bent on weakening Russia, and he suggested Western leaders did not understand how dangerous their meddling could be in what he cast as Russia's own internal affairs. He prefaced his nuclear warning with a specific reference to an idea floating by French President Emmanuel Macron on Monday of European NATO members sending ground troops to Ukraine, a suggestion that was quickly rejected by the United States, Germany, and Britain. All right. So this was, as I said, was a couple months ago, and you know, You had the French president that was thinking about sending, troops to Ukraine, which Putin would have to really, pretty much react to that. Okay, but it mentioned that 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis, in which we're currently seeing, this war escalate uh, past that. All right, the tension that 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis generated, we're seeing, that same level of fear and panic, um, be resurrected. Okay, in the earth. So like it says, Russia and Belarus began second stage of tactical nuclear weapons drills. Moscow says the exercises are a response to daily provocations from the United States and European allies. It says Russia and Belarus have begun the second stage of tactical nuclear weapons drills, part of Moscow's efforts to discourage the West from ramping up support for Ukraine. Russia announced the exercise last month after French President Emmanuel Macron said he would not rule out deploying troops to Ukraine under certain conditions, and the United States and some other NATO allies said Kiev was allowed to use Western supplied weapons and targets in border areas of Russia. The first exercise took place last month and focused on preparation for nuclear missions and how to arm and deploy missiles. Let me see. Okay, let me just read. It says, in the drills that began on Tuesday, the Russian Ministry of Defense said Russian and Belarusian troops would undergo joint training in strategic nuclear weapons used in combat. It said the exercise was aimed at maintaining the readiness of personnel and equipment to ensure the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the alliance between Russia and Belarus. Speaking to reporters, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said the situation in Europe was quite tense, and that such drills and maintaining combat readiness were important in view of the hostile decisions and actions by the U.S. and its allies and their daily provocations. So the things that America and its allies are doing are considered to be provocative to, the Russian, military. All right. So the actions that Babylon has taken, which, some of those actions being, support for Ukraine and sending aid and things of that nature. And then the last article I read about the French president saying that, these troops need to be used in Ukraine. Well, that's, a proxy army. Um, pretty much Ukraine is a proxy army. But when you have, NATO troops and European troops and American troops actually fighting in Ukraine against the Russians, then that gives the Russians the credence to strike and target, America and in other countries, NATO countries, European Union countries. Okay. It says since sending thousands of troops into Ukraine is a full scale invasion on February 24th, 2022. Russian President Vladimir Putin has repeatedly warned that Russia could use nuclear weapons to defend itself in extreme situations. Last year, Russia moved some of its tactical nuclear weapons into Belarus, which also borders Ukraine and NATO members Poland, Latvia, and Lithuania. Belarus Belarus's President Alexander Lukashenko has relied on close ties with Russia and provided his country as a staging ground for the war in Ukraine. Tactical nuclear weapons include air bombs, warheads for short-range missile and artillery munitions, and are meant for the use on a battlefield. Usually, they are less powerful than strategic weapons, huge warheads that arm intercontinental ballistic missiles and are intended to destroy entire cities. Man, look at that. Okay. Usually, they are less powerful than strategic weapons, huge warheads that arm intercontinental ballistic missiles and are intended to destroy entire cities. Okay, so these short range missiles and artillery munitions, they're meant for the battlefield, and they're not as powerful as these ICBMs. Okay, but eventually those ICBMs, according to prophecy, will be used. Okay, it says Russian President Vladimir Putin has noted, however, that even Russia's battlefield nuclear weapons are much more powerful than the two atomic bombs the U.S. dropped on Japan in August 1945. All right, so these Russians ain't playing, man. And there's more to this article. All right, as you can see, I got it from Al Jazeera. YouTube trips about putting certain links in the comment section or in the description section. But as you can see, this is the article here. All right, so now let's edify with some scriptures. Getting to it, this is Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 29. It says, "Call together the archers against Babylon, all ye that bend the bow." Okay, so all these nations that have nuclear capabilities eventually are gonna pretty much use them on America, because this Babylon here is referring to Babylon the Great. Okay, all ye that bend the bow camp against it round about. All right, so with those Russian submarines or warships or whatever that are have went to Cuba, that's a show of these nations. Excuse me, these nations camping against round about Babylon the Great, aka America. It says, let none thereof escape, recompense her according to her work, according to all that she had done, do unto her. For she has been proud against Yahweh, against the Holy One of Israel. So, speaking as a man, I wouldn't be surprised if more countries, NATO countries, EU countries that have, China, so on and so forth. These countries that have, nuclear subs and warships and things of that nature. I would not be surprised if, they all end up floating off the coast of Babylon. From the Gulf of Mexico, Atlantic Ocean, Pacific Ocean, and eventually, shoot the missiles they have right here to America, man. I wouldn't be surprised if that actually happens, man. And with that, with America having a intel of these nuclear warships and nuclear subs and things of that nature being off the coast, but in international waters, but close enough to be able to strike America, on all sides, that would allow you know, certain people not to escape. You know what I'm saying? Like as far as via sea, you know, surrounded, just enclosed in. Okay. So once again, it says, "Call together the archers against Babylon, all ye that been the bold, camp against it round about, let none thereof escape. Recompense her according to her work, according to all that she hath done, do unto her. For she hath been proud against Yahweh, against the Holy One of Israel." And America has been very proud against Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. All right. You look at the state of America in comparison to 10, 15 years ago, and one thing to take note of is the pride in the anti anointed anti Yahweh agenda that America has, promoted. All right, not only in America but in the whole earth. You can clearly see that this place has, been in operation uh, of pride against Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Okay, so this place is gonna be cut off, man. And there's more to this Jeremiah. The whole chapter is good. But for the second time, I'm gonna move on to the next precept, which is going to be the book of Revelation 11 and 14. It says, "The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly." All right. So World War II has passed. It was in the 40s, the late 30s and early 40s, if I'm not mistaken. And that's already in the history books. Okay, but what's about to make the history books is this World War III that is brewing up. All right, which we're in the midst of. All right, and it's just gonna continue to ramp up until it turns hot. Okay, until the missiles start flying, and it came quick. Even for brothers who have come into the truth. Since 2007, 2008, 2009, 10, 11, 12, so on and so forth. It took some time, but fast forward 2024, it's like, man, we still here, but we're seeing prophecy unfold before our very eyes. Okay, it took some time, but in retrospect, it came quick. Okay, and lastly, I want to grab this here in Revelation 18, and as you see from the title, Babylon is fallen. So Revelation 18 and 1, it says, "And after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird." It says, because eventually what's going to happen is when the Babylon the Great, aka America, is destroyed with thermonuclear destruction, after that fire subsides, this place will be a monument uh, by way of becoming a desert. All right, so it's going to be a monument of this is the result of a nation that thrives on wickedness, that is completely rebellious and anti righteousness, anti Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. This is what you get. Okay. So you're gonna have, desert like creatures that are able to dwell here, actually dwell here. Okay, so that's why it mentioned that it's gonna be a cage of you know, habitation of devils in the hold of every foul spirit, in the cage of every unclean, hateful bird. Because the what's the word I'm looking for? The animals that are able to surviving in a desert like climate are unclean animals. Okay, they're not fit uh to eat. But that's what's going to dwell here in America. After it's destroyed. All right, when this land becomes inhabitable for those creatures, that's the only thing that's going to be here. Verse 3 says, "For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of the fornication and the kings of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies." All right, so these nations have, did trade and commerce with Babylon the Great, taking upon themselves some of, the the left hand wisdom and teachings and practices that America has been engulfed in. These other nations have taken some of those demonic things onto themselves. Okay, and laying in bed with America, they've been able to, generate wealth. Okay. It says, "And I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues." Okay, so that's the elect of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, the 1/3 here in Babylon the Great that's going to be delivered. Okay, that's going to be beamed up, out of this place, simultaneously while the missiles is falling down, you know, to destroy this land. Okay, for her sins have reached unto heaven, and the Most High hath remembered her iniquities. Reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her, double according to her works, in the cup which she hath filled to her double. All right, so death, destruction, double judgment is coming to America. All right, which is well deserved when you look at all the wickedness that America has done throughout the earth and promoted throughout the earth and upheld throughout the earth by force. All right, these nations are tired of it, and the day of reckoning is almost here. All right, let me see. Verse 7, it says, "How much she hath glorified herself and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her. For she saith in her heart, I sit a queen and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow." And even with the tension between nations, heightening, or in particular, Russia and the European Union and NATO, those nations, the tension just over in that region heightening, as well as the tension with America and Russia heightening, and eventually tension with NATO and America is going to heighten. You would think that Babylon the Great will pump its brakes, all right, and refrain from the pride that it loves so much. But that's not what's going to happen, okay? Because America thinks that it sits a queen, will never be a widow. Ain't nobody ever going to invade America and show that this place is vulnerable. When really this place has already been infiltrated by all those immigrants that have come through the Darien Gap, through the border of Texas, right here into America. This place is already infiltrated and proven to be vulnerable. All right. And eventually it's going to sit a widow. It's going to be destroyed, man. Verse 8, it says, "Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire. For strong is the Lord power who judgeth her. All right. So the Lord, is more powerful than the elites that control these countries and pretty much finance these wars. The Lord's he's gonna prove himself to be more powerful because his will is gonna be done. All right. Which his will is to destroy Babylon the Great. And the actions we see the nations taking the course, the course that the earth is going. We see that destruction is nigh. So Lord willing, this was edifying. Until next time, shalom.